Hi guys, and welcome to a brand new video in a new series where we'll be talking about the basics of the current technology. Okay, so in this particular video we'll be focusing on the Linux operating system. Okay, so Linux is an operating system just like Windows. Okay, so you have been using Windows for ages, and yes, Linux is an operating system exactly like Windows but somewhat less familiar with. Okay, so now Linux is mainly confused with the word Unix. Okay, so Unix is basically a kernel. Okay, a kernel in an operating system is like something which you give instructions to. Okay, so you give an instruction to a kernel to write something on the hard disk or to get some information from the RAM or to display some content on the monitor, and someone who is giving all these instructions is Linux or the operating system. Okay, so the chances that you are giving instructions to a kernel is very high because Unix or overall Linux is used in thousands of devices worldwide. Okay, so right from supercomputers to data centers to cameras to printers to computers and to mobile phones, Linux is used almost everywhere. Okay, if you are owning a mobile phone, the chance of it actually running Linux is very high, provided it is not a Windows phone. Okay, Android and iOS, all of them use Unix kernels behind the scenes. Okay, so next up we have data management. Okay, so Linux uses the FAT4 file structure rather than the NTFS file structure found in Windows. Okay, so this file structure is really better at writing data on the hard disk and also reading it up. Okay, so sometimes you have faster read and write speeds when you are using Linux as what you are which you will get when you are using Windows. Okay, so next up we have .exe support. Okay, so this is a very important factor according to me, and the main deciding factor by which I am on Linux. Okay, I am using Ubuntu. Okay, so Ubuntu or Linux has no support for .exe files. Okay, so in Windows, if you want to install any new software, .exe is the go-to. So you have downloaded some file from the internet, it is something .exe, and then you basically extract that file. Exe stands for executable. You extract that file and then you are installing it on your system. Okay, so in Linux, basically you don't have that .exe file, and a really good advantage of this particular dropout is that you don't have a lot of viruses designed for Linux. Okay, so viruses are mainly designed or packaged in .exe file behind some image or some video file. Okay, and as you don't have support for .exe file, you can't have virus infect your system. Okay, the downside of this is that you cannot use Windows applications, and that is a major deal breaker for some people trying to shift to Linux. Okay, so then Linux is super secure. Okay, it has this cool system of permissions where you assign permissions to different users. So you basically have different users as different people, and you assign different permissions to each one of them, and you can as a user only access the file or execute it according to the permissions which you have. Okay, so in Linux you have a super user called root. Okay, and the root user has got all the permission to access each and every file. Okay, so it is like the master user. Okay, so next up we have drivers. Okay, so Linux is really good at managing peripherals connected to it. For instance, I am using Ubuntu and I don't need a driver for my printer till date. Okay, so this is a really good thing which is inbuilt into Linux, which is that it can interact with peripherals directly. Okay, you don't need a third party driver or software to have that shell by which you interact with hardware. Okay, this is a really good thing in Linux by which you even reduce the delay times. Okay, so next up you have some Linux flavors. Okay, so a very big misconception about Linux is that it is really text based. Okay, but the truth is that Linux actually has a lot of flavors. Okay, a flavor is an operating system built on top of Linux. Okay, so you have flavors like Ubuntu, which is a pretty graphical user interface rich operating system. The creators of Ubuntu actually want to make it similar to Windows so that the user experience is not really different and you really have a good way of using Linux. Okay, the next up is Kali. Kali is basically used by people who want to be really intensive on the applications which they use, which is really demanding and also run on small hardware. Okay, so Kali can be used to maybe run some dictionary attacks on a Raspberry Pi, and that is why it is mainly used as a low-end operating system to run on low-end hardware. Okay, so next up we have Raspbian. Okay, Raspbian is the main operating system which you have to install when you get a Raspberry Pi. Okay, so Raspberry Pi is a single board computer on which you run different operating systems. So Raspbian is a custom flavor of Linux specially designed to run on Raspberry Pi. Okay, so that is, according to me, sums up this video. And yes, if you have just stumbled across this channel, feel free to like, share and comment, because I am exploring this new way of learning together. If you have not watched my videos, I will have them linked here and here. And yes, thanks for watching.